Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Self-Knowledge Lectures. Today we have the lecture number 17. We are going to talk about the 3 factors for consciousness revolution. We are live on Facebook and on Google Meet. So, as every Monday and Thursday, we are here giving you this free self-knowledge course that have the purpose of giving you all the tools so you can awaken your consciousness, so you can achieve the self-realization of your being. Allow me just a second to check the audio here. And we will start with today's lecture. If you have any questions, remember that you can leave your questions there in the comment box. And at the end of the explanation of today's topic, we will solve any question that you have. Okay? So, let me put everything in order here. And let's start with this very, very interesting lecture. Okay, I think everything is okay. If everything is going on with the video or with the audio, please let me know there in the chat so I can solve it, okay? And let me put this here. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the 3 factors for the consciousness revolution. And well, I think the video is like, let me check. Just a moment. Okay, I think it's okay. So, well, as I was saying, today we are going to talk about the 3 factors for the consciousness revolution. Actually, this is a very, very important lecture because today we are going to see these 3, or the only 3 works that we need to perform if we really want to develop our spirituality, if we really want to achieve total liberation, which is the self-realization of our being. And we are going to see in detail what are these 3 factors, how we can practice them. And, well, you can see that we spend years searching and trying among the seas of theories and practices that exist everywhere without really finding something that, really generates a definitive change within ourselves, something that really leads us to experience a real advance in our awakening. And many times what we do is that we end up exhausted and resigned to hope of an afterlife, or we just lose hope and go to atheism, denying, the existence of something superior or of something divine. But when the soul is tired of turning in this wheel of death and rebirths and come to the knowledge of these 3 factors, and the person begins to practice them, to experience them directly every day, then a regeneration process begins, a process that leads that soul to discover and to achieve the purpose for which it descended into the physical manifestation, which is to get to know himself. And well, what will be today's lecture objective will be to know what are these basic tools that will allow us to reach the self-realization of our being. So, with the practice of the 3 factors that we will learn today, we are going to first awaken the 3% of consciousness that we all have, to begin to receive guidance, to begin to receive, wisdom from that inner divinity that we all have, to begin to receive strength also from that divine and conscious part that we all have. And we are going to awaken that part in us with the practice of these 3 factors. And also, we are going to begin to release and to awaken the 97% of essence that is currently trapped in the ego. So we are going to start liberating the energy that is trapped within the 97% of energy and essence that is trapped within our ego. We are going to also start saving the energy that is given to us daily to function. And we are going to start making a wise use of this energy. Actually, our spiritual awakening will depend on how much energy we manage to release, to save, to condense, and to awaken. And also, with the practice of the three factors, we are going to develop in us what is the true love, and what is actually the highest vibration in the universe. So, if we really want to raise our levels of consciousness, we need to learn to develop love. And we are going to do so with the practice of these three factors. The first factor will be to be born. The second factor will be to die, the psychological death. And the third factor will be the sacrifice for humanity. Just allow me a second to solve something here. Just a moment. Let me check if this is going. Okay, I think now it will be solved. Well, okay, so these are the three factors, and I'm going to be explaining these factors like in order, and we are going to learn what is to be born, how to be born, what is to die in yourself, and how to die in yourself. And also you are going to learn how to sacrifice, which is the sacrifice for humanity. These are actually the three factors that will allow us to awaken our consciousness. And, well, I hope that everything is going okay with the video. If someone there in Facebook or in Google Meet can tell me if the audio is in the video is okay, I will appreciate that, because here I cannot like clearly see what is going on. See, well, okay. Well, now it's okay. Well, let me just start explaining today's topic. So, what is the spiritual birth, which is the first factor, or to be born? Actually, a spiritual birth is the creation of the existential bodies of our being through the proper use that we do of our sexuality. Our sexual energy is creative, and actually just by uniting with a couple of the opposite sex and activating these creative energies, you can see that we can get to create the bodies of physical children. But if we begin to give our sexual energy a superior use, making this energy ascend through our spine instead of expelling it by reaching orgasm and ejaculation, what we are going to do by wisely channeling this sexual energy is to start creating the existential bodies of our being, which are the 7 bodies that will allow us to have a conscious presence in the different dimensions of nature. We can have a presence in this third dimension because we already have this physical body, but actually this physical body is in a lunar state. And by practicing the suprasexuality, we will be able to regenerate our physical body and regenerate our vital body. And then we are going to start creating our solar astral body, our solar mental body, and our solar causal body. And that will allow us to be able to have conscious presence in the different dimensions, in the 5th dimension. And when we get to create this first 5 bodies, actually we become true men because we already have a human soul. And at that point, we will have the right to unite with our buddhic and our atmic bodies, that we don't have to create them because they are fully created. But we are currently disconnected of these superior bodies. And at that point, we will be able to join these bodies and to achieve full presence in all the dimensions of nature. So, a spiritual birth is aimed at beginning to understand the value of our energy, so that we realize, or that we start realizing, that the biggest mistake that we as humans make is not understanding the value and the power that resides in our energy. And the first and the more important change that we must make within ourselves is that it's beginning to value our sexual energy, to stop wasting this energy and to start condensing our sexual energy, so that we can begin the process of a spiritual birth. So we start being born internally. And well, let's see how we are going to make this practice of the suprasexuality, which is today's purpose. But first, there are 3 basic requirements for the sexual practice to be a superior sexual practice. And these are fidelity, chastity, and love. Performing this practice without complying with any of these requirements will lead not to being able to receive results from the practice. Okay? And the first one is fidelity. Fidelity implies that this practice should only be done with a stable partner of the opposite sex. You cannot be changing partners at all. Just a second. Sorry. You cannot be changing partners, and you cannot practice the suprasexuality with anyone outside of your partner, because this would adulterate the purity of the practice. And this practice must be carried out, hi Gustavo, between a man and a woman, since only when the sexual energy of the man is united with that of the woman, then it can activate its creative force. And just as to create a physical child, you need the participation of a man and a woman. It's actually essential. Likewise for the creation of the internal body. So fidelity is very, very important. Also chastity. Chastity is non-fornication. It's the non-expulsion of the sexual energy from our body for any reason. To never reach orgasm and ejaculation, because reaching orgasm and ejaculation is actually wasting our precious and valuable energy. And in this practice, we are going to learn how to raise our sexual energy through our spine to fill ourselves with our own energy. And the third requirement of this practice is love. And love refers to respect for our couple, and that a spiritual longing that leads both people to collaborate sexually to grow spiritually. So the couple is actually our most valuable complement, since it will, or that person will help us to connect with our own divinity. So we must value our couple a lot. Those are the 3 basic requirements. And for the spiritual practice, for the practice of the spiritual birth, we need that the place, that it is the bedroom in which we continually carry out this practice, that we make of this a special place that is always in a perfect state of cleanliness and ventilation, that is free of noise, of televisions. And it is important that in that place that we do our practice, there are no more people sleeping, since there will be a mixture of energies. That is important. And just as it is important to have the bedroom in a clean, in a physical form, it is also important that before doing the practice, we make sure to energetically clean that place. And we can do this by doing the belling conjuration and the magic circle. The belling is that mantric song that helps to clean the environment from any negative energy, from any larva. And the magic circle is what is going to close the environment so that those negative energies cannot re-enter. Remember that we learned these conjurations in the lecture number 7 that is here recorded in the Facebook page. In case you didn't see it, you can go and see the conjurations. And after closing the environment, which is very important, we ask our inner being, which is, our Divine Father and our Divine Mother, to assist us in this practice. And then we proceed to the practice. We must know that it's very important to have, during the practice, concentration, so we keep focus on the practice, so we never let the mind interfere with the practice, taking us, out of the here and now. And we also must have imagination. So we can consciously direct our sexual energy inward and upward. We are going to do so with the imagination. And we must remember that for the wise, to imagine is to see and create. And we also need to have will so that we keep control of our sexual organs and we never get to overexcitement and we never ever get to spill our sexual energy. So these 3 things is very important to always have into account when we are practicing the suprasexuality. And talking now directly on the sexual practice itself, once we have prepared our environment and once we have asked for assistance to our divine being, we are going to activate our sexual energy along with our partner. And in order for the sexual energy to become active and to achieve to achieve a correct direction in men and correct lubrication in the woman, we need to perform conscious kisses and caresses, between the couple. And when I say conscious, I mean that we are not going to let the mind to get involved in the whole process, but we are going to stay concentrated, focused on living the here and now, living each kiss, each caress, without letting the defects of lust lead us to overexcitement and to never lose energy. And once we achieve a correct direction in men and lubrication in women, that is very important, then we proceed to the sexual union or penetration. And the difference with the sexual practice to which we are accustomed will be that instead of making rough movements to overexcite ourselves and reach the point of orgasm, what we are going to do is that we are going to make gentle movements only when necessary to maintain the sexual potency. And we are going to start moving this energy through our spine through a respiratory process. And this respiratory process, which is actually very simple, consists of inhaling deeply and slowly. Here you have in the case of the woman, because here you can see the ovaries, etc. And what you are going to do is that you're going to inhale deeply and slowly until you feel your lungs, and then you bring the air with your imagination to your sexual gonads. In the case of the women, are the ovaries, right? And when the air is there, you are going to retain the air, and you are going to imagine how all that sexual energy goes like a golden thread from the ovaries to the coccyx, which is the lowest bone in the spine, and there is going to ascend through the spine all the way to the point between the eyes, here. And once there, you are going to exhale the air while you mentalize the first vowel, which is the vowel I, but with the sound E, like elongated, like E. That in the case of the woman. In the case of the man, it's exactly the same, the exact same procedure. You inhale, both can do that at the same time if you want to. You inhale, imagine your air going down to your lungs, filling your lungs, going to all the way to your testicles. There you retain the air. This process needs to be as slow as possible. Hopefully you can reach 20 seconds in that inhalation process, and 20 seconds in the retention, and 20 seconds in the exhalation. That is like the goal. But now you are going to do it as slow as possible without like forcing yourself, right? So once the air is there in your testicle, you imagine how all that energy goes like a golden thread, remember, to your coccyx, which is the lowest bone there in your spine, and all the way going up vertebra by vertebra until reaching the point between your eyebrows. And there you exhale, the same, the vowel E, I with the sound E, like E. You're going to focus yourself in this point where you are mantralizing, as you can see here. The second time, you're going to repeat the exact same procedure. You're going to inhale, retain, imagine the sexual energy going to the coccyx, then goes up to the spine. And when reaching this point, you exhale by mantralizing now the vowel A, but with the sound A, like ah, that way. And the third time, you're going to inhale, retain, imagine the ascension of the energy, and when reaching this point, you're going to exhale with the sound O, like O. So those are the three mantras for the transmutation of the sexual energy. The E, A, O. Yeah? And what you're going to do, you're going to keep repeating this procedure, because that way you are like uploading your sexual energy and you are like filling yourself with that powerful sexual energy. If at any time during the practice the sexual potency drops a little, you don't need to let your sexual energy like finish. No, if you feel that the erection in men is like falling, or the lubrication in women, what the couple do is makes gentle movements to regain potency. And once the potency is already there, you continue uploading the energy. You continue with the process of the breathing process and the mentalization to upload your energy. And actually, this practice can be extended for as long as the couple wants it, for as long as they have sexual potency, and as soon as the potency is completely finished, you know, like you can give kisses, caresses, or make gentle movements, and the energy is, you don't recover the sexual potency, is because the energy is completely uploaded, and because it has already been transmuted, you know. And at that point, the practice ends. And the success of this practice will always be to withdraw from the practice without ever spilling not even a drop of the sexual energy. That is the success of the sexual practice, okay? And well, certain things that is important to consider is not to bath until 2 hours pass after doing the practice, because even if we don't see it at first, actually powerful electromagnetic energy moves in us in this practice, and if we bath immediately, it will definitely affect us. And another important thing to keep in mind is not to do the practice during the menstrual period, or if the woman is pregnant or lactating. And it is also important not to use contraceptives, since they like isolate and affect the creative power of the sexual energy. And we must bear in mind that this practice is a natural control of fertility, because, as I was saying, the success of the practice is to withdraw from it without ever reaching orgasm and ejaculation. And well, that is the first factor for consciousness revolution. If you have any question, remember that you can leave your questions there in the chat, or you can, if you are there in the WhatsApp group, you can ask any of the administrators of the group, and we will gladly solve any question that you have, okay? Let's now see the second factor. The second factor is to die, or the psychological death. And it refers to the disintegration of each of our negative ways of being. because them all are the ones that keep our essence trapped and conditioned. They keep also our energy contaminated, and are our psychological defects that keep us in the degenerative state in which we currently find ourselves. And we need to eliminate them so the virtues of the soul can be born in us. Actually, by eliminating them, we will develop the virtue that is opposite to the defect. By eliminating our anger, we will develop patience, self-control, love. If you really start self-observing your anger, remember in the last lecture we were talking about self-observation. If you start self-observing and you observe all the details of your anger and you start eliminating all your anger from yourself, what you are going to develop is patience. What you're going to develop is love, is self-control. If you get to eliminate your laziness, well, you will develop diligence. If you get to develop your lust, you will develop purity and chastity. Because if we really want to go to the sexual practice and never spill our sexual energy, we need to start observing and eliminating during the day, and with the practice of the reflective meditation, eliminating all the details of lust that always make us reaching that point of spilling our sexual energy. That way, by eliminating those defects, we are going to develop chastity. And by eliminating the lie, the greed, the jealousy, the pride, well, we will develop the opposite, like honesty, loyalty, humbleness, for example. So we see that for us to truly develop a virtue, it is absolutely necessary the comprehension and the elimination of the defect that was trapping that virtue. And if we learn to observe ourselves, to discover each one of the manifestation of the ego in our minds, in our emotions, in our actions, we get to know that what is manifesting is not an act of our consciousness, but of our ego. Remember when we were talking about ego, personality, and essence, we actually need to start like making that, we must learn to distinguish when is a manifestation of our ego, when is the personality acting. So we actually get to eliminate all that and start seeing radical changes within ourselves. And not as a repression, but as a real change that will arise from from observing, from recognizing our mistakes, our wrong ways of being, and eliminating each one of them, in their roots. Yeah, so it is very important that we develop that we practice constantly the self-observation to start observing what we think, so we can start seeing the constant inner chatter that we have, and that is all the time there talking things. Who is the one that is thinking? You need to get to discover, because we must learn to achieve mental silence. And to do so, we need to discover who is thinking in my mind, so I get to eliminate that. So if your mind is all the time, there are all the time projections of the future, or memories, or regrets, and all of that are psychological defects that are there doing what? Feeding on my energy. And we must observe also our emotions, our pleasant and unpleasant emotions, all the moods that we are in at every moment, because there we can find many, many manifestations of our ego. And we must observe all of our mechanical reactions, everything that upsets us in any situation in this physical world, all the tensions that we feel in our body, all the sensations that we experience. We need to observe them, we need to judge them and eliminate them, and as well as the thing that we say and that we do. We must start like filtering if that is an action or in a word of our consciousness, or if it is part of a psychological defect, and if it is so, it must die. And well, what are the steps for the elimination of our ego? Well, actually, first, self-observation. That is like the most important part. Once we get to observe in ourselves a detail of our ego, maybe in our mind, or I found that emotion and I recognize it is sadness, for example, and I start judging that emotion so I can comprehend um, how this feeling that you are feeling, or this thought that you are thinking, or this action that you are performing is not from your consciousness, but from your ego. And it is actually depleting your energy and it's getting you to hurt others or hurt yourself. Because if you are feeling anger, actually that angriness can lead you to hurt others. But actually, just by feeling angry, you are actually hurting yourself. You're hurting your physical body, but also you are hurting your own consciousness because it is like trapped there more and more. So what you do, if you self-observe and you discover that psychological defects, you immediately ask your Divine Mother to disintegrate that defect. You ask Divine Mother, eliminate these defects. Whenever you feel it, if it's in your mind, you eliminate the defect. If you discover that in your emotion, there, in any part of your body, you feel a tension. Why am I feeling tense? This is because I am worried. Divine Mother, eliminate this tension, this worry defect. And why am I worried? Because I don't have enough money for this and stuff. These are things of greed. Divine Mother, eliminate this greed. And that way you are going to free in consciousness, and that consciousness will allow you will give you wisdom, because consciousness is wisdom. And when you get to eliminate this defect, the consciousness will give you the solution for the situations. Will like open your mind to see something like clear, and that way you can solve anything. So actually, when we work seriously in this procedure, practicing that, from moment to moment, you are going to be liberating the essence. You are going to be balancing your energetic centers, and at the same time, you are going to be raising, your levels of consciousness. Since, by subtracting the essence from the ego, we are going to be adding that essence to our conscious part, and that conscious part in us will be growing from only 3%, that is what we currently have, to 4%, 5%, so on, until we achieve, 100% of awakening, awakened consciousness, which is like the purpose that we are pursuing. And well, the sense of self-observation, as we use it, is going to become sharper. At the beginning, you are going to be able to see 1, 2, 3 defects in the moment. But as you practice this, the sense of self-observation will going to become like every time sharper, and you're going to, in a moment, start seeing all the psychological defects that are manifesting, and that with the practice. Any times that when you get to notice even a small and insignificant detail, and you get to eliminate them, that will allow you to see your own progress in this path. Here there is an example that you can use, that you can imagine, so you can see all the psychological defects that can get out just in a moment. For example, you are calmly driving along the street, but when you get to a corner, another vehicle cuts you off. And just by that simple situation, if you are self-observing, you can discover all the manifestations of the ego in your mind, telling you this, telling you to say that, talking a lot. If you observe your emotion, you're going to see everything that is moving on there, all the unpleasant emotions that you have there. You can even get to observe killer cells. I mean, at that moment in self-observation, we really get to know who we are and what are we capable of. And if at that point you get to, ask your Divine Mother to disintegrate any of those defects, also the tension that you're going to start feeling there in everything, you ask your Divine Mother to eliminate every of those details that you discover in your mind, emotion, in the words that you say, in the reactions that you have. Actually, you can get to rescue a lot of consciousness. And that procedure of being in self-observation, eliminating the psychological defects from moment to moment, is called ongoing death or psychological death. And it involves staying awake all day, practicing the self-observation so we can discover all the manifestations of our ego. But also, it is good that you take a time during the day to sit and to reflect on the different events of the day. There you can make new discoveries, and there you can continue pleading your Divine Mother for the elimination of everything that you understand. Yeah? And that procedure of sitting and remembering everything that passed during the day and eliminating the psychological defects that manifested is called the reflective meditation. And this reflective meditation helps us to free great amounts of consciousness. So it's very important. And well, that is the second factor, which is to die. Let me now explain to you the third factor, which is the sacrifice for humanity. Sacrifice for humanity, as you can see here, is to selflessly share this knowledge with all humankind. Sacrificing for humanity, searching for others to have the opportunity, to change themselves, to stop suffering, to awaken their consciousness, that pays off with great force for our inner work, and in addition to allowing us to awaken love. It is the ability to do. And it gives us a great boost to advance, both in the elimination of our defects, because we will have dharma to pay for the karmas of our defects, and we can eliminate them quickly. And also will give us like a boost in the creation of our internal bodies through the spiritual birth. So actually, that helps us a lot with the other two factors. And you can see that wisdom is the reason and the beginning of everything. And if we don't receive the wisdom, we die ignorant of the very purpose of our existence. And if we sit and reflect on this, allow me a moment. Let me see something here. Okay, if we actually reflect on this, you can see the responsibility that actually having wisdom represents. Because when we receive this knowledge and we begin to apply it in our lives, and we begin to experience our own advances and the transcendental changes that we are living and seeing within ourselves, the need to share it with others just begin to be born in us. Because we understand that just at some point we were totally ignorant of this knowledge, and now we get to see how useful this is being to us. The same, there are many other people in the world whose soul is just waiting for someone to bring them the knowledge of these three factors to achieve the purpose of their existence. And that way is how we show love for humanity, because actually love is shown in the deeds, in the things that we do for others. Knowing what we say or what we feel, actually love is demonstrated in the actions. And well, what are the conditions to share this knowledge? Because there are certain conditions. And the first one is that we must deliver the knowledge for free, without receiving anything in return, totally free. Otherwise, if we charge for this knowledge, it will be business, not sacrifice for humanity. So it will be for free. Another condition is that we must give it to the entire world, without any restriction of race, age, nationality, gender, social status, etc. To everyone. because we all came from the same source, looking to achieve the same purpose. Actually, we all in humanity are brothers to each other, so we need to share this knowledge with the entire world. We must live it pure. That is the third condition, and very important. Pure, without adding other things. And also, we must not take away or hide anything from this knowledge, because that would be like an adulteration of the knowledge. If you come and you take out the spiritual birth, you are actually taking maybe the most important part of it. If you take out the elimination of the ego, or the knowledge that we have a part in our consciousness that is our divine mother, that have the